Good morning, everyone. This is Tommy at Worldatwarcomics, and we have another fantastic podcast for you today. But before we get into that, please give us a like, get us a subscribe. You know that helps the channel, helps get it out to more people, and it also reminds you when we have a new interview that pops up. So help us out and hit that subscribe button, and make sure you hit that ring bell so you get those notifications. All right. This podcast is brought to you by Cien Chilies, the best hot sauce you will ever have. Please go to cienchilies.com and check them out. And if you like what you see, which I know you will because I love their hot sauce, put comics in checkout and you'll save 15% off your total order. That's cienchilies.com. And also, this podcast is brought to you by Comic Crusaders. If you want to know anything about new comics that are about to come out, go to comiccrusaders.com. You can see all the comic reviews, movie reviews, and there's even portions of music. All right, without further ado, today's podcast, our special guest is Drew Craig. He is the writer and the creator and the artist on the Savage Strength of Starstorm. I love this comic book. It gives me such an amazing 90s feel to it. The story is a lot of fun, and they're on issue 4 right now, so things are getting really interesting. So check it out. It's still early enough in this comic book for you to be able to get into the story, but I think you're going to really like this. So without further ado, here is Drew Craig and I having an amazing conversation on how he came up with Starstorm. Thanks, everybody. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the World at War Comics podcast. Today, our special guest is Mr. Drew Craig. He is the writer, creator, and artist, which is crazy, of Starstorm for Image Comics, man. Drew, thanks for joining us today, man. Great to see you.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I mean, I was in my local comic book store and I saw this comic and I picked it up and I fell in love with it. So I got all the issues right here, but man, what a fun comic book, man. I thought maybe before we get into Starstorm, maybe we could go back and find out when was the first comic you read? How'd you get into comics? That type of thing. Is that cool?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, comic books in my life have just been like a consistent thing. It's like ever since I can remember, I love, like, it started out with just loving superheroes. I mean, like
Yeah.
every, most kids, you
Yeah.
just grow up and you say, oh, Superman, he's the most powerful. He was my favorite when I was a little kid, was Superman. And then, like,
Yeah.
I remember, like, one of my first memories is going to see Superman the movie with my mom for my birthday, and like that was like the
Nice.
first movie I remember seeing in the theater, and I was a big Superman guy,
Yeah.
So yeah, and I grew up. I live in Montreal, and we grew up on. I grew up when I was a little kid. I lived on the South Shore, so that was mostly French.
Okay.
So we didn't have access to like a lot of English comic books. We had a lot of French translated comic books. So my first memories are getting those comic books of French comic books. Like it was Marvel, but it was translated in French, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so and like yeah, I was all about it, man. It's just
Yeah.
like all about, like most guys who are into this sort of stuff, it's
Sure.
I was all about superheroes and Star Wars and all that sort of stuff, so yeah, and it never ended. I still love it to this day, as much as I did back then, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, so it's just always been there,
Right on, man. Were you lucky enough to have a comic book store fairly close to where you live?
Well, when I was a little kid, there wasn't. It was like I was getting it at the we call them the depanneurs, or the like the 7-Elevens,
Yeah.
yeah, at the corner store, right? So that's where I first started getting comic books. Then when we moved when I was probably around 8, 9 years old. We moved to the West Island of Montreal, which is like a little more English, and
Mhm.
so like, and they had like more comic book stores, and that was when it started to, like, the boom started, when with
Yeah.
comic book stores and everything. So yeah, so I mean, yeah, so there was several when we were growing up. There was one called Captain Quebec. That was sort of the big one in the West
Oh,
Island.
nice.
There was one that was down the street from my high school called DG Comics. There
Nice.
was, and then there was several others, but those were the two main ones that I went to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, yeah, like in the middle of winter, I'd be going to get my comic books. Like, I'd go through the snow and like save my lunch money, and and
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I just yeah. But Captain Quebec was like the big one with it had like a lot of back issues and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was like an event if we got to go to Captain Quebec. That was like the big store, and that was like me and my brother was like a, if we got to go there, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
So
Do
yeah,
you know
yeah.
if it's still around?
There's one. It's still in Montreal, but there's only one store that's downtown on St. Catharines. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's still several stores around, but there's none in the area where I am. I'm still in the West Island. I moved back. I lived downtown for a time, and then I moved back. And there was one that opened up, but it was short lived. It was here for about a year, maybe 2 years at the most. They mostly specialized in trades, and yeah, but it didn't fly, So, but I always thought like it was one of the things I would have liked to have maybe done is open a comic book store one day, as long as it. But I don't know how lucrative they are these days, but it's still on the radar. You never know. You never know.
You never know, right?
Yeah. So
I think it would be really fun to own one, but
yeah,
I think the goal would be to break even. That's what I've
yeah,
understood. It's more of a hobby, right?
yeah.
Yeah, right on, man.
I mean,
So I mean, you're a writer, you're an artist, and obviously you're the creator. Out of art and writing, do you have a passion for one over the other?
well, originally it started with art. Like originally,
Okay.
I just wanted to be a comic book artist,
Right.
and then, but I always created my own characters, my own stories, and stuff like that. So I mean, originally, yeah, I was just the art. I was like, and to this day, I still am drawn by the art. That's what catches me first. But then if someone tells me that this is an amazing story, I'll go and jump on that and read that for sure. But the art is like first what catches me, and then it's the combination of both. I got to have the art and the story, So if the story lacks and the art, I mean, the art's great. I'll flip through it, and just put it away. But I mean, I want that story, obviously, that catches me, So yeah, it's like it's as I grow older, it's more it leans more towards story now. Where when I was younger, I just wanted everything to look like an Alex Ross painting. You know what I mean? So,
Alex Ross is amazing, man.
Yeah.
Definitely
So,
amazing.
yeah. So that was, I mean, I remember like when I was a kid, I wanted everything to be real, like I wanted all these characters to come to life. So it was, if it went more towards the realistic side of things, that was when I latched onto that, But then as you get older, you learn to appreciate different types of art and different types of styles, So yeah. So I mean, yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, both. Yeah, both. I mean, yeah, it's got to be art and story. It's
Absolutely,
so, yeah.
Do you remember the first character you tried to create, maybe in high school or something like that? Like, how long ago did you start playing around with like characters and stuff like that? I think we all tried to like create our own character at one time, right?
Yeah. Well, I remember I created a bunch of characters. I mean, they're always, it's always loosely based on other characters that you're reading about and stuff,
In my case, they were like exactly based on it. I'm like, oh shit,
yeah.
I just created Reed Richards in purple. I mean,
exactly. That's pretty much all it was. I had this character Power Pack. He was basically Superman. I mean, even in Starstorm, you'll see characters that are, derivative of it's all derivative of other stuff, right? That you grew up with. But it was always like that. So I always had these big spreadsheets of these characters, and I did like the Who's Who Marvel Universe style, their bios and their power levels and stuff like that. And even I was at one point, this is how bad it was in high school, was that I was drawing my own characters on white T-shirts. I would stretch them out over my lapboard and I would draw them on like with ink, I think.
That's awesome.
It was bad. It's bad style. Good.
Were you wearing them to school and everything?
I wore them to school, yeah.
Nice. I'm sure the ladies were just following you everywhere.
I was so popular in school. The ladies, it was unbelievable.
Welcome to the world of a comic book fan, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it was. I think back and I go, oh man, I wish I could go back and be like, dude, just keep it at home, like or keep it at the conventions, like.
I love it, man. I think we all did stuff like that, man. We wanted to bring something to life that we created, man. And that's funny, man. It's hilarious. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when did the character Starstorm come to life? And did it start with the character and then you built a world around it? Or did you have this idea of this world you wanted to create and Starstorm came out of that world, that universe?
Well, how it started, really how the character started was when we were kids, me and my brother, my family, we went to Hampton Beach, and I think we were in like this arcade, and my dad had played like the ball game where you roll it up into the slots and
the skeet?
and stuff. Yeah, the skeet ball, right? So Yeah, so we played that, and anyway, he won like a prize or something. And anyway, I got this T-shirt, and on the T-shirt it said Starstorm, and it had like these old graphics, like Zaxxon sort of, like these
Nice.
80s, like real, pixelated graphics of laser blasts and little stars and little
That's pretty
cubes and
cool.
stuff. Yeah, so I brought it home and I made a whole, like I was a little kid and I made a whole Starstorm. That was like my superhero, and I made a whole,
Nice.
yeah, cosplay out of it. So so that's how
Hopefully,
it.
hopefully you didn't wear that at high school, man.
No, I didn't wear that to
Okay,
high school.
good.
No,
Woo!
no. It
That's a
was,
close one.
I wasn't wearing pajama bottoms, even though kids still wearing pajama bottoms. I could have been a trendsetter maybe, but
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
probably not.
Oh, I love
But
it.
yeah, so I just so I mean, I made that, and then it just like I started drawing him as a character.
Yeah.
And then I kind of put him on the back burner for a bit, and then so and then it just sort of like my brother actually picked him up and started using him in his, because he used to write it and draw his own comic books as well.
Nice.
And then at one point I was like, no, I think that's my character. I want him back,
Yeah.
So then he went through different designs and different styles, and then I just I just started, like I was sending away sample scripts to DC and Marvel to get a job, and I was getting sample scripts back, and I was sending samples, and like I'd work on the samples and I wasn't getting any work, so I just said it like I'd like to write and draw my own story, So
Yeah.
I had several different story ideas. One was called The Galactic Warriors. One was like a samurai story. One was
Hmm.
a giant robot story, like a group of characters in that. And then I was sort of like spreading myself too thin by writing like several different stories. So I said, you know what? I'm going to focus on Starstorm, and I'm just going to make the whole universe. I'm going to bring them all together and see if they can
Yeah.
all fit the pieces of the puzzle together that way. And that's how it started. I just started like putting all those characters in, and then I just it's all, I just would take walks and think about, okay, where do I want to go with the story? What am I going to say? What's the
Hmm.
character about? And I said, the comic books I was reading at the time, I was like, there's not, everything's so serious. Like I want to sort of have a little more fun,
Yeah.
the stuff. And I mean, not that Starstorm isn't going to be serious, but it's like, I want it to be a little more, a little more, not so dreary, like a
Yeah.
more of an upbeat character, So, not that it won't get a little dreary at times. It's going to pick up, it's going to ebb and flow basically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, nothing's taboo in the story, I'm tell whatever story I feel like at the time. And I have about several story arcs ready to go. So,
Nice.
So, I mean, so that's how it started. That's how it evolved. It just organically went from that. And then I would just go for my walks in the morning and I think of story ideas. And then I always liked having like the three characters, like sort of Spider-Man and his amazing friends. And,
Yeah.
so I brought in these characters and his love interest and a friend, and, and that's it. And that's sort of
Yeah.
like, and just branch it out from there, So yeah,
Nice.
I have like a whole world, like the inspiration is sort of Stanley, Jack Kirby,
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff, just
Yeah.
creating my whole universe of heroes that I have in my mind, So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
when I saw Grant Garrison, I was thinking of Stan Lee because all of his names start with the first letter and the last letter. I go, I
Yeah,
wonder if that's an ode to like
yeah,
Stan Lee and how he did. Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome, man.
for
I
sure.
love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
As far as the characters, you got Jen, you got Eli, who I think is hilarious.
yeah, yeah.
Um, the characters that you started to develop, did these come from maybe high school and you knew someone like that or someone in your family? Can you give us a little bit of how you developed these characters and where they came from?
They're all loosely based on people I grew up with, I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
certain archetypes and certain characters from television shows, and a lot of it's
sure,
influenced by Saturday morning cartoons that I grew up with in the 80s and stuff like that.
sure, yeah,
But they are definitely like Eli's like a guy that I hung around with in high school, he's like a
yeah,
comic book guy. He used to skateboard and
yeah,
play D&D and is all about it, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So, and and Jen's like that that girl that you wish was like into the same stuff at the same time as
Yeah.
you.
The one you could wish you could bring your homemade shirt in. She'd be like, that is so
You
amazing.
think was the most amazing thing? That's it. Yeah, exactly. So, like my girlfriend is now, really. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So
exactly.
she's basically like that, So, and and she's just like the cool girl that
Yeah,
she's like, she's somewhat of a dream girl, but at the same time, she keeps them all in check. She's
yeah, yeah,
tough, and the other two can be kind of like, fly by the seat of their pants, and she kind of is the moral compass, and she keeps
Yeah.
everybody sort of grounded. So that's the
Yeah.
idea of the three of them. So,
She's definitely the most mature of the group, it seems
yeah,
like.
exactly. As often in case it is
Yeah, for sure. I've been married for 27 years, and as you can
yeah.
see behind me, my wife thinks I'm an idiot. So, but she's here, and she is the more intelligent.
Yeah. Well, I should be in my office. If we were in my office, it would look, the background's very similar. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome. I would love
I'm
to
in
see
my
it one
dining
day.
room. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. I'll send you pictures.
that'd be sweet, man. I love it. I love it,
Yeah,
Drew. I
yeah,
love
yeah.
it, man. That's awesome, man. So, as far as character development, or just developing your story in your world, do you have a favorite part of that process? Is it the actual world that you're creating? Is it like developing each character and their uniqueness? Like, do you have a favorite part of that process?
Well, I think my forte line lies in character design. So like
Okay,
I can come up with new looks for characters pretty quick. It's
that's
like
awesome.
something I've always done, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that's my forte. But what I really love is that, like, usually my day starts out, I wake up and it takes me about an hour to clear the cobwebs, but I go for a walk.
yeah,
And when I'm walking, I kind of like, I think about the story, and then when those little pearls drop into your head, you're just thinking, and all of a sudden you go, oh, that's an awesome
yeah.
idea right there. You know what I mean? And then I get goosebumps, and then I got to write it down right away. And
Right.
so that's my favorite part. And then yeah, like, and then figuring out that piece of the puzzle, and then how it's going to connect with the rest of the story.
Yeah,
I really like that part. Right now, that's my favorite thing, is when I get those little sort of, yeah,
yeah,
little pearls of wisdom, or for lack of a better term, that just
yeah,
drop on you, and you're like, oh yeah, that's where I'm going to go with the story. And then, okay, this character will, like, something will happen with this character, and that'll
yeah.
bring them together. And yeah, that's my favorite part, is putting the pieces of the
Yeah,
puzzle together, basically. Or
sure.
like, I remember George Lucas, like, watching an interview with him, and he was talking about like chipping away pieces of the rock, like, till
Yeah,
the sculptures form. That's sort of my favorite part of the process.
yeah.
So, but I still love designing characters. And
Mhm.
actually, I have to kind of rein it in, because I design so many characters that it's like, okay, well, I can't just keep redesigning them and recreating them. Like, I'd like to redesign everything for every issue, but you got to keep it like a certain tone, right? You can't just keep
Yeah,
changing stuff. But like, it will evolve. Characters will change their looks, like, slightly, and just their costume designs and stuff like that. So
yeah.
just so it's like a little more fresh and stuff, and it's like,
Mhm.
I'm not just bored of drawing the same character over and over. But I mean, it'll be the same look, but just like
Yeah,
with tweaks here and there. So
that's
yeah.
awesome.
So, but I mean, I'll just love doing all of it, really. It's a lot of fun, for sure.
So, like on it, because you're doing not too many people do everything, but you're starting to see more. There's a comic publisher down here in the States called Alterna. I don't know if you ever heard of them before, but they're a pretty small publisher, but they've been around for I think 17 years, if I'm not mistaken, and they have most of their the comics that they carry. The creator does it all. They do the even the lettering they do. Uh,
Yeah.
and I'm always fascinated by that, Drew, because that's a crazy skill set to have. How
Mm.
long does it take you to finish one like story arc for a comic? Because it just seems impossible to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, like when I started it quite a few years ago, and
Okay.
it was I have a other job. I train people boxing, which is like total
Oh, nice.
two different things. So yeah, so I was that pays the bills, and this is
Yeah.
like my passion.
Yeah.
Um, so it was just like, when I started, it started real slow, and I just said,
Yeah.
okay, well, and then I'd draw things, and I didn't like the way the page looked, so I'd redraw it, and it still wouldn't
Yeah.
come out, and then I'd redraw. And at one point, my brother's like, "You got to stop redrawing. It's going to
Yeah.
take you 10 years to like finish an issue." So
Yeah.
so I anyway, but it was good because it gave me time to, like, get the art. Like, I mean, if you see the first issue, I'd still redraw the whole thing probably, but but from the first issue to the sixth, you'll see like quite a
Yeah.
development in my art style,
Yeah.
because it took a while for me to get things like, okay, now I'm happy with what I'm drawing, and like I can like put this out into the public without like being like too cringe about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, it all depends on if you have to get it done.
Yeah.
If I have to get an issue done for next month, then I got to get it done.
Yeah.
So I just buckle down and do it. I mean, it's not easy, but you just got to
Yeah.
put your butt in the chair. And I can be pretty distracted. I'm a little a little ADHD, so I can really find a lot of distraction, things to distract
Yeah.
me. But yeah, but at the end of the day, I just try to discipline myself and put myself in the chair and just get it done. The story, usually I just have the story. I kind of work like a little bit like the Marvel method. Like I have the story loosely in my head, and then
Yeah.
I see
Yeah.
what points I want to tell in the story, what shots I want to hit,
Yeah.
and that I kind of visualize and I draw those points out, and then I kind of connect them with the story like in between, you know. So then, so that's how I do it. Some people write full scripts. I don't sit down and write full scripts. I just
Yeah.
have the story in my head. As I'm drawing, I know what they're saying. I write down, okay, this, you know, Eli's talking to Starstorm to Grant, and he's saying this, you know, and I mark it down on my phone. Put the phone down, go back to drawing, you know. So I work a little like all over the place. It's a little, but that's how I do it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, I don't know if anybody else does it like that, but that works for me. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've interviewed a few people who have that same process.
yeah,
They yeah, it's kind of just how you go, even if they're not doing the art, right? They have a very loose story of like a sentence per panel, and then the artist comes back with their rendition of what that would look like. And then they
right,
adjust what they're going to say within each panel based on that, as long as it's close
right.
to what their thought process was. But yeah, I mean, I think that's very similar to what you're doing. It's just you're doing the art yourself. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is that like when I take my walks, sometimes like the dialogue will pop into my head. So
yeah.
as I'm walking, I'm going, okay, yeah, okay, this is what they're saying. So
Mhm.
that's like how, yeah, on those walks, like really sort of I flesh everything out on my walks, you know. So
Yeah.
and yeah, that's the way
That's
I do
cool.
it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long it takes me, it all depends on how
Yeah.
long it needs to take me, really, you know.
Yeah.
So it could take me a
Exactly.
year, or it could take me a month, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I'd say it takes about a month to 2 months to figure everything out and get it all done, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So did
yeah.
you self-publish and then shop that around, or did you just have the storyline that you were shopping around?
No, what I had originally was I just made an ash can of the
Okay.
first issue, and I took it to New York Comic Con, like I don't know, like quite a few years ago now, before the pandemic. So I was
Yeah.
just getting feedback from it, you know. I spoke to a couple people. I spoke to Eric Larson, and
Yeah.
he looked through
Savage
it, and
Dragon.
yeah, exactly, which was an influence, obviously, with the Savage Strength of Starstorm, right? So,
Sure.
yeah, so he flipped through it, and he said, yeah, it looks good, you know, it looks like you're good to go. So that gave me kind of like,
Yeah.
you know, encouragement, you know, to work a little bit, you know, a little bit harder on it, you know, because I was like, at first I was like, nah, I don't know if it's going to fly. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just doing it for myself. And you know, we'll see what happens, you know? So, so when he gave me like the sort of the nod to say like he thinks it's good, then I was like, okay, yeah. So then I got like more excited about it, and then I really went into it, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then yeah, so I just had those ash cans, and then the pandemic hit, and then I said, okay, let's get it done, you know,
Yeah.
because what else am I going to do, right?
Yeah.
So I was playing D&D online and trying and writing Starstorm, and that's it pretty much, you know.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, we
So
all, that's when the
yeah,
beard started.
yeah. No, I've had the beard for a while. I got a lot worse
Okay.
down to here. Yeah. So looking real Grizzly Adams at that time. So
Yeah. Nice, man. I
uh,
love it.
yeah, so so then I just got it done during the pandemic, and
Yeah.
then I was still like tweaking things here and there. I wasn't like, you know, 100% satisfied. I have like a bit of that perfectionist thing,
Yeah.
but that's something you got to let go of, because it's like
Yeah.
if you're just trying to make it perfect, it's never going to see the light of day, you know?
Yeah.
So then, yeah, then I just decided to pitch it to Image, and, you know, kept my fingers crossed, and they said they were interested in publishing it. So, and then
Sweet.
you know, I shed a couple tears and of happiness,
Yeah.
and then,
That's awesome, man.
you know, away we went. So that's it. Yeah.
Dream come true, right?
Yeah, it was really a dream come true. It's really something, you know, I always wanted to do, and it was really. I mean, it's just I just got the fifth issue in the mail today, and just to see
Nice.
all the covers together that I mean, I've been looking at them for a while, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it's neat to see them and put them in a plastic bag and be like, these are
Yeah,
my comic books that I made. You
for
know,
sure.
it's something cool. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean to get published by the third largest publisher in the world, the largest indie comic publisher in the world.
Yeah.
And it's personally my favorite. You know, the 90s was a big deal for me, 92, 93, when
Right.
all of them got together and started Image. Man, it changed everything, and it opened up, I think, the world to indie comics, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Indie was there before, but it was kind of like obscure. You go into a comic book store back then, you just saw Marvel and DC. You might see one or
Yeah.
two indies, but it wasn't that big. And then Image just changed everything, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just
For sure.
exploded. And yeah, I mean, if you're an indie comic creator, you have to, if you don't like them, you have to at least appreciate the doors that they open for all other indie comics to own the rights to what they're producing. That's huge, man.
It was huge, you know. I mean, that was a big thing. I mean, that was massive, you know. And I mean, like, you know, Todd McFarlane, being Canadian, you know, he was my guy, you know. So
for sure.
yeah.
I mean,
so
I'm American. He was my guy, man. I love.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, like, I mean, you know,
he's amazing, man.
Oh yeah, he was awesome, you know. He still is. He's a cool person. My brother Wes, right? He draws for Image. I mean, writes and draws Kaya, right? So, yeah. So he had a panel with Todd one time, and it was
that's
cool.
crazy.
He was sitting right next to him, and
that's awesome.
He was kind of like, he was looking at me in the audience, going like, you know, like our idol as kids, you know. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, that's a huge inspiration, you know, those guys, all those guys, you know. So and all those comic books were so cool. The art was so cool, and like, you know, at that time it was just like everything was just exploding off the page, you know. Like, it was so visually amazing, and yeah, a lot of fun. Like Starstorm, I'm hoping, you know. Like,
yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, man, it's incredible to see where comics are today and what Image has been able to do, man. And I'm super happy for you about Starstorm. How many is this going to be an ongoing series? Is that the plan?
The plan is it's going to be an ongoing series. Right now, it's coming to the end of the first story arc.
Okay.
Then it's going to get collected into a trade, and then I gotta get the next set done. So I'm gonna take a little break because I gotta re-gear up and like you know, and like hopefully it sells and it makes enough money so that I can produce more of them, you know. So you know, right now it's a little bit tight, so I'm hoping that the trade will, you know, jack up some sales, and then I can get some money back to start producing them again, you know. So
nice.
So the plan is to keep it going as long as I can. I'll keep doing it as long as I can do it, you know, as long as I don't go broke, and just, I mean, I'll do it regardless, you know. I might do a Kickstarter for the next 6.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking about doing that and then raising up some money and then maybe use that for the next 6 or even the next 12, or, you know, I don't know. I'm not sure. I have to speak to some people about that.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with the first 6, but the next 6, I've already started, like, I'm on issue number 8 right now.
Yeah.
8 and 9. I kind of jump back and forth a little bit. So, but they're really cool. So I'm hoping, I just got the cover back for number 7. I posted it on my Instagram page, and it looks really good. So, so I'm hoping people want to see it, and you know, they get out and buy it, and you know, that'll help me to do it. So that's basically it, you know. So
and is there 6 issues in this first arc?
Yeah, there's 6 issues,
right? Yeah.
So and then it'll be like a little sort of continuation, and then we'll go into, then it kind of jumps. I'm not going to say exactly where, but then it's going to kind of explode and really take off after that. Yeah. So the first 6 is sort of like, I mean, it's a big setup, you know, but it's a setup for, you know, this whole universe that I've created. You know? So
I mean, you're starting to see teams form, right? And so you could definitely see something bigger is going to happen.
Oh yeah,
I'm all in, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's a huge universe that I created. So it's, I mean, like I said, I've been working on it for a while. So, cool.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Oh, your visual just cut out on me. Sorry.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, hold on. Let me get on here. Okay, we're good.
All right, cool. Yeah, so as far as Starstorm goes, man, so it's a 6-part arc. Are there other things that you're kind of, I know you said you've dabbled in other story arcs and stuff like that. Are you all just on Starstorm, or do you want to try and develop another comic down the road, like with a whole new story and all that good stuff?
I have a bunch of ideas. I have, I have like quite a few.
Nice.
yeah, some of them are going to be
Anything
like
close, like anything that you think could probably happen like in the next year, or you're not sure yet?
I'm not sure. I got to
Yeah.
see it. It's all really, depending on Starstorm and if I
Yeah.
can, it's making these things is like sitting at home drawing and writing them is the easy part. Everything
Yeah.
else is the hard part,
Yeah.
So so just that it like I have a story for like it's like an offshoot of Starstorm. There's a couple different characters I have
Yeah.
that I'd like to develop, but I have another story that I might do with my brother. We've been talking about it for a couple of years now.
Nice. That'd be fun.
It's yeah, that would just be like a short, like a mini series, like maybe a 6-part mini series.
Yeah.
It's sort of like an '80s sort of style, sort of Goonies meets Witches of Eastwick meets Thrashing, sort of
That's
like
that would be
yeah,
awesome, man.
yeah. So it's
The skateboard movie Thrashing?
it's
Oh,
like
dude, I love that movie, man.
yeah. So it's like skaters versus witches in
Yeah.
this small town America sort of thing, and
That's awesome, man.
yeah. So it's and like yeah, it's very punk rock and yeah.
Yeah.
So
That'd be
we'll
fun,
see.
man.
We'll see. Yeah, I think I'm gonna. I have to do it. It's gonna get out
Yeah,
there
yeah.
somehow. It's a good story. And everybody I've told it to, like they really are like, oh, you got to do that. That's a great story, So
You'll
yeah,
have a
so
bunch of close to 50-year-olds going nuts, man.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's all
That
it's for
remember the
guys our
80s,
age.
man.
Yeah, for sure. It's for guys our age for sure. It's
Yeah,
yeah. It'll be cool. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I gotta speak to Wes. I gotta bug Wes. So we gotta get this
yeah.
done. So yeah, see what happens.
And then as far as some of the writers and some of the artists, I know you already mentioned a couple writers, but are there artists and writers that you grew up and you're like, these are the guys that I have to read or I have to see their artwork?
Yeah, well, the first guy was probably John Byrne. He was
Oh
like
yeah.
the first guy that I was like a huge fan of. Wes was into like George Perez, but so those two guys were
George
like
Perez is awesome
they were the
too.
best back then,
Yeah.
So they were the first two. Byrne was the guy like everything he did, I was getting,
Yeah.
Brian Bolland was another guy, like all his art. I got all his Judge Dreads and
Yeah.
the Killing Joke and all that, and Camelot 3000. There's a lot. So and then I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like a big Art Adams fan. I liked his covers and like stuff that he did. His annuals were cool. And then John Romita Jr. was like
Oh,
once I got into him, all those the Daredevils he did and the X-Men and
sure.
the Spider-Man and all that stuff. So yeah, those were the main guys. Claremont, obviously,
Yeah.
writer wise. Alan Davis when he was on Excalibur, and I liked, I mean, it's all there's I could go on for
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
McGuire on Justice League when
Yeah.
like that run was awesome when those guys did that, and yeah, I mean, and like then it was Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely were like, as you know, in the last couple of years, those are my, it's pretty much what most people,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean. I'm trying to think
Those
of
are good
someone.
ones. Those are
Yeah,
good
those are the
ones.
best ones, right?
Yeah.
I loved Planetary, John Cassidy, and
Yeah.
there's so much. There's so much good stuff in comic books. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna, we're gonna go off after. I'm gonna go. Oh, I should have said this guy. I should have said that guy, and this
Oh,
writer.
those are really good ones. I think you're good, man. Those are
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Those
so,
are
yeah. So I mean, there's so much good stuff for sure.
yeah, yeah. The other Canadian artist that does some writing is Kari Andrews out of
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver. I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
man. He's another artist that's one of my favorites right now. He's
He's
doing a little bit on
amazing.
Spider-Man right now. And
Yeah,
then he has Erratic, which is his own
yeah,
creation,
yeah.
which I think Spider-Boy is just a knockoff of, just between me.
Yeah, yeah. It's very similar. Very,
Very
very true.
similar. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But that's another one that I really love, man. And he's a cool guy too, man.
Yeah, I think I met him once at New York Comic Con. I think I
Yeah,
hung out. I mean, it was real brief, but I
yeah,
think we met once. And yeah, I'm a big fan. He's
yeah.
awesome. He's a great artist and writer too. So yeah, I got all the erratics and what was the other he did for Image was what was the story that he was working on there? It's slipping my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. Only because you said that. Now I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
remember, right? That's how it works.
yeah. Put you on the spot. Put myself on the spot.
Yeah,
Can't
yeah.
remember.
I'll think of it
Yeah,
when we hang up too.
yeah, exactly,
But yeah, he's
exactly.
amazing, man. He's doing such good art right now
Yeah.
with Amazing
His style
Spider-Man.
is like very going, like it's very McFarlane, like it's sort of like
Yeah,
almost like a modern McFarlane sort of
great.
take. Eh? It's really,
Very
yeah,
detailed, man, which is
yeah.
crazy. He has a Spider Boy cover for Spider Boy 1 that's coming out, I think next week or the week after. And
Mm,
he Spider-Man's upside down and Spider Boy is on top.
right.
And it's the craziest thing I've seen, man. It's amazing. You have to
Yeah,
check it out, Drew. It's
yeah.
awesome.
Well, I keep the Savage Avengers there. He did like a little
Mm,
cover for that. That was super cool. I
yeah.
love that cover. Is so cool. Yeah, great artist. Great
Great
artist.
artist, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
As far as kind of getting the word out, are you doing very many Comic Cons?
Yeah, well, I just did Fan Expo in Toronto.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
yeah, that's a good one.
yeah, I did Montreal Comic Con.
Did
Albeit
Image have a booth there?
yeah, yeah. Did Image have a booth? No, not at
Okay.
Fan Expo. No. Yeah, so I'll be at I did Montreal Comic Con. I did Fan Expo. I'll be at New York Comic Con.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
but like just sharing like a corner of my brother's table, basically. I
Yeah,
tried to get
yeah,
a table, but I couldn't get one
sure.
myself. So
Yeah.
Wes is a bit more of a big deal than me. So I was like, okay, well,
Yeah,
let me
he's
take the
pretty good
corner.
too. He's all
So
right. He's all right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'll be off in the corner going like, here, buy my comic book, you know.
Exactly. I know if you could get one for me, Drew, that'd be awesome, man.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, for sure.
kidding. Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. That's exciting too, man. What's your favorite part, man? Because I'm sure now that it's being published by Image, you're getting people, at least on Instagram and stuff, talking about your work, man. That's got to be pretty rewarding having this creation. Now it's out there and getting some responses, man. Have you had some pretty cool responses? I
Yeah,
assume.
I've had quite a few.
That's awesome.
It's one of the most rewarding things in my life, I'd say. You know, it's really
Yeah,
like you know, like it just I spoke to my brother about it, and I told him like we were talking about it, and I said, you know, like I remember like when I was a kid, and it's like you're saying the Image comics were coming out, and you know, like how
yeah,
excited I was to go get those comic books, and how like you
yeah,
know sometimes your days aren't so stellar, and you know got but you have something to look forward to like that. Like you got a comic book that's coming out that you're looking forward to,
yeah,
and you know that brightens up your day. You know, so
yeah,
I was like, if I could do that for like you know somebody else, then
yeah, yeah,
that's an amazing thing. You know, so.
yeah.
So it's like that feeling of giving back, you know, like what comic books did for me growing up. You know, if I can do that for other people, then that's awesome, you know.
That's
So
dope, man.
yeah, yeah. So that's how I feel about it. It's really it's you know you get the goosebumps, you know, when people say they love it, and it's really you just you feel great, you know. So
Yeah,
I mean, I've had the other end where some people aren't a big fan of it, but you know
yeah, yeah.
that's gonna happen, you know. So not it's not everybody's cup of tea, and I didn't expect it to be. So
For
you know,
sure.
I'm
I
just
mean,
happy that the
yeah.
people who love it. You know what I mean? That's great. You know, so
Even like your brother or others who have been doing it a while, man, they get that same thing. So that's just
yeah,
very normal. I'm always
yeah,
surprised that if someone doesn't like something, how vocal they'll be about how they don't like if I don't like something, I just don't read it and I don't say anything. I
yeah,
just move on to the other thing. But some people just have to let Drew know how bad they
yeah.
thought it was. I'm like, okay, I mean, what are you supposed to
That's
say to that?
yeah. I mean, that's just how the world is, I guess. You
Yeah.
know, there's some people who just you know, it's same with me. I'm always of the mind. Listen, if it's you know, if you got nothing nice to say, then don't say anything at all. You know,
Yeah.
but people, if they want to, you
Yeah.
know, they
It's
want to
all
talk.
good.
I mean, listen, you know, any press is good press, I suppose. You know, even
Yeah,
the
I
bad
guess so.
stuff, you know, I guess.
I
But
guess so.
yeah, it is what it is. It's like, but I
Yeah.
just, you know, I just focus on the positive. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
That's all good.
I know that not everybody's gonna love it. So, you know,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not Alex Ross. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, but
Well, you definitely have a unique style, which is
yeah,
really cool because, I mean, when I see this art, if you were to do anything else, I would probably know, oh, that's Drew, just
mm,
because it's
mm,
very unique. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think
mm,
artists that have unique styles that
yeah,
are, I mean, you look at like Scotty Young,
mm,
everywhere I see his art, you know, that is
yeah,
right.
yeah,
No matter what he does, I just know that's him because it's very unique just to him.
yeah, yeah,
I think that's a really good thing, Drew. I mean, you have a very unique style. It works for what you're doing. I personally
mm,
like it. And then the storyline, just like I said, brings me back to like 80s, 90s sci-fi movie that I'd be watching, which I love.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what it
it.
is. Yeah, awesome.
Exactly. And then the last thing I wanted to talk to you about it, because you'd made a comment about boxing. Are you an MMA or boxing guy, or what's going on here?
Yeah, well, my dad used to box
Oh,
when he was
okay.
a kid a little bit. Yeah, so I mean, it's like my whole family's sort of into boxing,
Okay.
and yeah, so I grew up around it, and
Nice.
I grew up with it, and yeah, so I was going to compete at one point. Actually, I wanted to try to compete, but my dad, you know,
Yeah.
he didn't want me to do it because it's real dangerous, and
Sure. Sure.
so and there's multiple reasons not to do it. So anyway, so
Yeah.
I never did anything with it, and I ended up training people, and then
Yeah. That's awesome.
and I'm not meant to work a 9 to 5, so I'm like meant to either train people boxing or draw and write comic books. It's like
That's awesome.
my two strong suits. So
Yeah.
so I'm doing both, So that's
So you're training fighters that are going on to compete though, right?
no, I don't train. I've trained like a couple people who were looking to
Yeah.
compete and stuff like that, but I just train people to get in shape.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah.
I've done it a little bit, and man, I'm exhausted like 90 seconds in, man.
Oh
People
yeah,
don't
it's super.
realize it's your
Yeah.
whole body is being utilized when you're
Oh
punching.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love it. And it's a stress reliever
Yeah.
too. And it's, I mean, when I was growing up, I had a heavy bag in my basement and a speed bag
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So my dad taught me when I was a kid, and
That's cool, man.
it's always the way I trained. It's just a fun way to train, a fun way to stay in shape, So
Yeah.
especially when you're sitting down for the majority of the rest of the
Yeah.
day drawing and stuff, it's good to get up and move around and do that sort of thing, So
Agree. I mean, I'm
yeah,
sure your back is killing you after a long day of sitting and drawing, right? And
yeah,
your
yeah.
eyes and everything, probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a spring chicken anymore either. So it's not as easy as it used to be for sure. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it is what it is though. It's okay.
Right on. Right
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
Well, Drew, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you spending some time with me to get to know you a little bit better, talk about Starstorm and how you came up with the ideas and stuff. I'm digging it, man. I'm hoping that you'd be open to come back on when you have other news of other things that you want to do, or if you just want to sit back and we could talk old 80s, 90s comics, man. I really enjoyed it. And I'm really happy for you and your success. Like I said, I'm a fan. I'm all in. So I can't wait to get issue 5, which is coming up, and then issue 6 right after that to complete that first arc.
Yeah.
Are you going to leave us hanging in 6, or will that complete like a storyline? Can you say
Yeah,
that yet?
you're gonna be hanging. You're gonna be
All
hanging.
right.
I got to give you a reason to get the next one, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I hate it, man. I watched. I mean, I love it. It's like that love hate, right? You love to
Yeah,
have that feeling of being hanged, but then you're like,
yeah,
damn it, what the? It's not
yeah,
complete, right? As a completionist, you're
yeah,
kind of fed up.
yeah,
But,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, you have to leave us hanging, though. I get it. I
yeah,
get it.
yeah. I got to do it. I got to
You
do
got to
it.
do it, man. You got to do
Yeah,
it. Well,
yeah,
is there
yeah.
anything else that you wanted to share before we let you go? Is there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to cover?
No, just everybody go out and give it a
Yeah.
try and see if you like it. And I appreciate you having me on. And anytime you want to chat, just let me know. I'm as long as I have the time to do it, for sure.
Nice.
I'm down to talk anytime, man. For sure, it was a pleasure to meet you, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed talking about it for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome, Drew.
I'll
Well,
show you
have a
the office too. Next
yeah,
time I'll go in the
exactly.
office.
Yeah, I got to see a picture of your office, man. That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure.
Well, Drew, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate your time, and I wish you the very best, my friend.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, I had a blast.
All right, great.